The sun had just dipped behind the mountains, painting the sky in soft pinks and golds. The new couple, Ethan and Claire, had arrived at the small, secluded cabin for their honeymoon, a place Ethan had promised would be private, unforgettable, perfect. Claire smiled as she unpacked, laughter spilling from her lips, but Ethan's eyes were distant, scanning the dense forest surrounding them. Something about the quiet made him uneasy, though he brushed it off. "This is exactly what I wanted," Claire whispered, touching his arm. "Just us, away from everything." Ethan forced a smile, nodding, but inside he felt a flicker of doubt. The cabin was beautiful, yes, but the isolation made the air feel heavier than it should. That night they fell asleep to the sound of the wind brushing against the windows, the occasional owl hooting in the distance. The moonlight spilled through the curtains, illuminating the room in soft silver. But Ethan didn't sleep well. He woke to the faint sound of soft footsteps on the wooden floor outside their bedroom. He blinked. Nothing. He shook his head, probably his imagination. By morning, everything seemed normal. Claire was bright and happy, Ethan's unease fading with the morning sun. They spent the day hiking through the nearby trails, laughing, holding hands, and trying to push the creeping sense of dread away. That night, as they returned to the cabin, Ethan noticed the bedroom door. Their bedroom door was slightly ajar, though he was certain he had locked it. He didn't mention it. Claire was already inside, arranging flowers she had bought in town. Ethan tried to push it from his mind, and yet he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them. When they finally settled in for the night, Ethan reached for Claire's hand. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too," she said, her voice soft and tired. But Ethan couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, listening. Then a faint sound, almost a breath, came from the far corner of the room. His heart thumped. He sat up slowly. Claire stirred beside him. "Ethan, what is it?" "SHH, listen," he whispered. The room was quiet again, too quiet. He forced himself to sleep, hoping it was nothing. But deep down, he knew the honeymoon was not going to be as perfect as they had imagined. The next morning dawned crisp and quiet. The forest around the cabin shimmered with dew, each leaf catching the golden sunlight like it was sparkling with secrets. Ethan tried to shake off the restless night, sipping coffee with Claire on the cabin's porch. She was cheerful, her laughter blending with the distant song of birds. "Maybe you just need to relax," Claire said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It's just the forest, it's so quiet, it feels weird at first." Ethan nodded, forcing a smile, but his mind kept replaying the sound he had heard. That faint, almost human breath from the corner of the room. He glanced at the cabin door, half expecting to see it slightly open again, but everything looked normal, too normal. After breakfast, they decided to hike the old trail Ethan had read about online, the one with the waterfall at the end. Claire led the way, humming, completely unaware of the tension tightening in Ethan's chest like a steel wire. As they walked, Ethan noticed something strange: footprints. Not animal tracks, but human, fresh, leading parallel to the trail, disappearing into the thick trees. "Claire, stop," he said, pointing. She turned, curious, squinting at the muddy ground. "What is it?" "These footprints," he whispered. "They're recent, someone been here." Claire laughed nervously. "Probably a hiker. This trail isn't exactly private." Ethan's gut twisted. "No, look closer." He stepped forward and bent down, brushing mud from a shallow print. It was small, a woman's shoe, cleanly made, almost delicate. Claire frowned. "Okay, now you're creeping me out. Maybe it's from the cabin staff." Ethan didn't answer. He had the distinct feeling that someone was following them, watching from just beyond the trees, staying quiet, unseen. By the time they returned to the cabin, the shadows had grown long, and the sun was a fatting smear behind the mountains. Ethan's unease deepened. He checked the locks on the cabin doors, even the windows. Everything seemed normal, too normal. But then Claire noticed it. "The door, the bedroom door," she said, frowning. "It's ajar again." Ethan froze. He hadn't left it unlocked. "Stay here," he whispered. Claire's eyes widened, a shiver running down her spine. "Ethan, what are you doing?" Ethan approached slowly, every step deliberate, his hand hovering over the doorknob. He peered inside. The room appeared empty, perfectly tidy, no footprints, no signs of anyone entering. And yet he felt it, a cold presence lingering in the corner, a whisper at the edge of hearing. the sensation of eyes staring at him, unblinking, unmoving, yet everywhere at once. He forced himself to step back. Nothing's here, he said, though his voice lacked conviction. That night, Ethan and Claire tried to sleep, but the tension was palpable. The wind outside rustled the trees like dry paper. Every creak of the cabin floor made Ethan flinch. Then it happened, a soft tapping sound, not from outside but inside the bedroom. Ethan bolted upright. Claire's eyes went wide. "What is it?" He shook his head, straining to listen. The tapping continued, soft, deliberate, rhythmic. "Someone's here," he whispered. Claire gasped, clutching his arm. No, it's just the cabin, the wind." But Ethan knew. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the cabin. It was someone waiting, watching. The tapping stopped suddenly. Silence. Then a shadow moved across the far corner of the room. Just for a split second, Ethan lunged for the light switch, but nothing. The bulb flickered, then went out. Claire screamed, her voice trembling. Ethan grabbed a flashlight from the drawer and swept it across the room. Nothing. But then, from the corner of his eye, he saw a figure, a woman, standing just beyond the doorway. She was pale, delicate, hair dark and tangled. She didn't move. She didn't blink, just watched. Ethan froze. Claire's hand found his. "Ethan, who is she?" He didn't answer. The figure vanished. They searched every inch of the cabin. Nothing. Not a trace. No footprints, no evidence, nothing except the unease that had settled over them like a shadow that refused to leave. Ethan sat on the bed, head in his hands. Claire knelt beside him. This isn't happening," she whispered. "It is," he said quietly. "And whoever she is, she's here for a reason, and she's not leaving." Outside, the wind whispered through the trees. A branch tapped against the window, soft, deliberate, like a warning. And Ethan knew the honeymoon that should have been perfect had already turned into a nightmare they couldn't escape. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the cabin windows, painting the floor in gold. But the warmth did nothing to ease the chill Ethan felt in his chest. The forest, beautiful in the light, now felt oppressive, watching, almost alive. Claire was already downstairs, trying to prepare breakfast, humming softly to herself. Ethan lingered at the top of the stairs, trying to shake the images of last night from his mind. The shadow, the figure, the feeling that someone was inside the cabin without leaving a trace. He was about to call the cabin rental company when a soft knock echoed from the front door. Ethan froze. He and Claire weren't expecting anyone, not for another day. Claire glanced up, frowning. Who could that be? Ethan motioned for her to stay back. He approached the door slowly, hand hovering over the lock. Another knock, this one softer, almost hesitant. He opened the door, and there she was, a woman, young, delicate, pale as porcelain, with dark tangled hair that fell over her shoulders like a curtain. She wore a faded floral dress, torn slightly at the hem, as if she had been walking through the woods for hours. Her eyes wide, dark, almost glassy, fixed on Ethan with an intensity that made him step back. I'm sorry," she said softly. "I didn't mean to scare you." Ethan's voice caught in his throat. "Who are you?" The woman tilted her head slightly. "I'm someone who knows." Claire stepped forward, unease written across her face. "Knows what?" The woman's lips quivered into a ghost of a smile. "Everything. About him, about you, about the honeymoon." Ethan felt his stomach tighten. There was something wrong, something unnatural about the way she spoke. Every word seemed calculated, as if she had rehearsed it 1,000 times in a dream only she had lived. Claire instinctively grabbed Ethan's arm. "You shouldn't be here," she said firmly. The woman's gaze softened for a moment, then it sharpened like a blade sliding from the dark. "I'm not here to hurt yet, but I need him. He promised me once and now he's trying to forget. He can't." Ethan's heart raced. "You're crazy," he spat, but the fear in his own voice betrayed him. The woman took a careful step forward. "Crazy? Maybe, but you don't understand him like I do. You never have. You can't see the story he's living." Claire's grip on Ethan's arm tightened. "You're not taking him anywhere." The woman's eyes flickered with sadness. "I don't need to. He'll come. He always does, but you brought her here. Now the story is tangled. Now he's confused, and I can't let that happen." Ethan felt a chill crawl up his spine. She wasn't just stalking them. She knew things of private things only he had said aloud, only Claire knew. The details of the cabin, the trails, even the small arguments they had on the drive here. How could she know? Claire whispered, "Ethan, we should call the police." The woman's lips curved into a bitter smile. "Police won't help. They can't see the story. They don't understand what's real. But I do." Then almost casually she stepped aside, revealing the trail of footprints leading from the forest to the cabin. Fresh, human. She had been here. She had watched them all night. Ethan felt his blood run cold. "You've been in the cabin." She nodded. "Yes," quietly, carefully, watching, making sure he stayed safe until now. "I only intervene when it matters." Claire shook her head, panic rising. "Safe? You call this safe?" The woman's gaze softened again, almost sorrowful. "I loved him first. I loved him in ways you couldn't even imagine. And I won't let him be taken from the story he belongs in." Ethan's chest tightened. "The story." Her voice dropped, almost a whisper, cold and cutting. "Yes, the story, and now you're part of it, whether you like it or not." She turned to leave, her dress whispering over the wooden porch. But before stepping into the woods, she paused and looked back. "Stay or run, but remember the forest watches. The story unfolds and it never forgets." And just like that, she was gone, slipping into the shadows, leaving a weight of dread that Ethan and Claire would carry forever. Ethan looked at Claire. His voice was hoarse. "She's not going to stop, and she knows everything about us." Claire shook her head, her face pale. "This honeymoon, it's a nightmare." And deep in the forest, the stranger paused, her eyes glinting as she whispered to the trees. "He promised, and now I'll make sure he remembers." The next day arrived gray and silent. The forest outside the cabin seemed heavier, the trees like dark sentinels watching every movement. Ethan couldn't shake the stranger's words. The story unfolds, and it never forgets. Claire tried to keep the morning normal, arranging breakfast and humming softly. But Ethan noticed the way she flinched at every sound. The rustle of leaves, the snap of a twig, the whisper of wind through the cabin eaves. Ethan decided they needed to explore, to find out if anyone else was around, if the stranger had left any evidence. As they stepped onto the porch, Ethan froze. A small, folded note rested on the railing, wet from morning dew. He picked it up. "You can't hide from the story. He belongs to me." Ethan's hands trembled. Claire clutched his arm. This isn't real," she whispered, voice tight. "It is," Ethan said quietly, "and she's closer than we think." They spent the day checking every corner of the cabin, the surrounding woods, and the trail leading to the waterfall. There was no one, no sign, nothing, except the lingering feeling of being watched, every step echoing in the forest like a heartbeat that wasn't theirs. By evening, Ethan suggested they lock the doors and windows and stay together in the bedroom. Claire agreed reluctantly, but even inside, they felt the presence. Then it started. Soft sounds at first, tapping on the window, a brush against the porch, the faintest scraping of shoes on the deck. They froze, listening. Ethan grabbed a flashlight. "I'm going to check," he whispered. Claire clutched his hand. "No, don't go." But Ethan moved anyway. As he stepped outside, the forest was empty, silent, too silent. Then, a shadow flickered between the trees just beyond the clearing. Ethan's heart pounded. "Who's there?" he called. No answer. Then a soft, almost playful laugh floated on the wind. A voice too familiar, too intimate, yet hauntingly wrong. "Ethan," the voice whispered, "I told you the story never forgets." Ethan froze. He realized something terrifying. The stranger knew their names, knew their routine, and knew their fears. That night they tried to sleep, but the cabin felt alive with her presence. Objects moved subtly, books shifted, chairs creaked. A picture frame tilted slightly on the wall. Claire whispered, "She's inside the house, she's here." Ethan shook his head. "No, it's the cabin is old, the wind, the floorboards." But he didn't believe himself. Then came the knock. Soft, deliberate, at the bedroom door. Ethan and Claire froze. "Ethan," the voice purred from outside. "I just want him, just one night, one moment, one story." The voice wasn't angry, not yet. It was seductive, obsessive, unrelenting. Claire grabbed Ethan, tears in her eyes. "We can't stay here, we have to leave now." Ethan hesitated. He wanted to protect her, but the thought of leaving meant losing control, letting the stranger win. Then he noticed something horrifying. On the floor, a small trail of rose petals led from the door to the window, perfectly placed, deliberate, and at the end, a tiny scrap of paper with a single word. Follow. Ethan looked at Claire. Their eyes met, a mix of fear, confusion, and the unspoken question, do we follow or do we run? Somewhere in the forest, the stranger watched, patient, calculating, waiting for them to make the first move. Ethan realized one terrifying truth. This wasn't just stalking. This was a game, and they were already inside her labyrinth. The trail of rose petals glimmered faintly in the moonlight, each one a deliberate marker, a breadcrumb left by someone who knew exactly how to manipulate them. Ethan's hands shook as he picked up the first petal, holding it like it might burn him. Claire stood close, her face pale, eyes wide with fear. "Do we follow it?" she whispered. Ethan swallowed hard. "We have to. If she's leading us, we need to know why." The forest seemed to close in around them as they stepped carefully off the porch. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, but beneath it, a faint metallic tang. Blood. Ethan didn't want to think about it. The petals led them along a narrow path, twisting and turning deeper into the woods. The sounds of the cabin faded behind them, replaced by the quiet rustle of leaves, the snap of twigs underfoot, the occasional owl call. Every shadow seemed alive. Every flicker of movement made their hearts race. Suddenly, a soft melody floated through the trees, a lullaby, haunting and familiar. "Do you hear that?" Claire whispered. Ethan nodded, unease coiling in his stomach. "She's here, close." They followed the sound to a small clearing, and there she was, the stranger, standing perfectly still, backlit by the dim moonlight, her dark hair cascading around her shoulders. She held a small lantern, its glow casting eerie shadows on her face. "You came," she said softly, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. "I knew you would." Ethan stepped forward, fists clenched. "Why are you doing this? Why him, why us?" The stranger smiled, a chilling, patient smile. "Because he promised me once, and now he's trying to forget. You brought him into the story, but he belongs in mine. He always has." Claire's voice trembled. "He's my husband, leave him alone." She tilted her head, considering Claire, then back to Ethan. "Do you remember the promises you made before you thought you would forget me?" Ethan's blood ran cold. There were things only he knew, memories he hadn't told anyone, yet she mentioned them all, each word a dagger of guilt and confusion. "You see," she continued, stepping closer, her lantern casting dancing shadows across the trees, "he can't leave. He belongs to the story, and now you're part of it too." Claire grabbed Ethan's arm, trembling. "We have to go. We can't stay here." The stranger's eyes flickered with something dark, pain, obsession, longing. "You can run, but the forest remembers. The story remembers, and it will bring you back." Ethan realized with a sinking feeling that this wasn't just a threat. It was a trap designed to make them follow, to play out the story she had written in her mind. Then she moved silently, almost floating, circling them. Every step was deliberate, hypnotic. "You're safe for now," she whispered. "But the closer you get to him, the closer I get to you. And when the story wants him, nothing will stop me." Ethan and Claire's hearts pounded in unison. The forest, the petals, the whispering wind. It all felt like the walls of a labyrinth closing around them. Suddenly, the lantern went out. Darkness swallowed the clearing. A single soft laugh echoed from all directions. When the lantern flickered back on, she was gone, just vanished. Ethan looked at Claire, voice hoarse. She's manipulating us, leading us, testing us." Claire shivered. How do we stop her?" Ethan had no answer, because deep down he realized the truth. They were already trapped in her story, and the labyrinth had only just begun. The trail of rose petals glimmered faintly in the moonlight, a promise of the horrors still to come. The next morning, the forest seemed even darker. Sunlight pierced through the canopy in jagged beams, but the shadows clung stubbornly to every tree, every undergrowth. Ethan rubbed his eyes, feeling as though the night's fear had followed them into the daylight. Claire didn't speak. She barely moved, clutching Ethan's arm as they stepped carefully along the trail, following the faint traces of petals she had left behind. But something was off. The path seemed unfamiliar, even though they were sure it led back to the cabin. "Ethan, we've been walking for hours," Claire whispered. "It doesn't look like the cabin is anywhere near." Ethan's stomach twisted. He had the same thought that had been gnawing at him for days. The forest wasn't just a backdrop. It was alive, and it was aware of them. Then they heard it, a soft, deliberate humming, not far, just beyond the trees. Faint, melodic, almost childlike, but under it, a tension that made their skin crawl. "She's here," Ethan whispered. "She's watching us." The humming stopped suddenly. Silence. Then a voice, whispering from everywhere at once. "Ethan, Claire, you shouldn't have come alone." Ethan spun around, flashlight sweeping the trees. Nothing. Not a figure, not a shadow. Only the forest, dense and still. Claire's hands trembled as she gripped his arm. "We have to get out now." Ethan nodded, but as they hurried along, he noticed something chilling. The petals weren't leading back to the cabin. They were leading deeper into the woods, twisting, forming a labyrinth-like pattern. The realization hit him like ice. She wasn't luring them out. She was luring them in. Suddenly, a tree branch snapped behind them. They froze. A figure emerged, the stranger, pale and silent, her eyes gleaming with intent. She didn't speak at first, only watched them. Her presence alone seemed to bend the forest around her, twisting shadows into unnatural shapes. "You see," she finally said softly, "the forest keeps its story, and so do I." Ethan's throat went dry. What do you want from us?" The stranger stepped closer. "I want what's mine," he promised, "and now the story must be completed. But fear not, I am patient. You will come willingly, or you will suffer knowing you tried to resist." Claire gasped, clutching him. "You're insane, you can't control us." Her smile was slow, deliberate, almost sorrowful. "Control? No, I guide, I remind. Every step you take, every choice you think you make, I am there." Suddenly, the forest seemed to shift. Trees creaked, branches swayed though there was no wind. The path behind them disappeared, replaced by a wall of undergrowth. Panic gripped them. "Ethan, the way back, it's gone," Claire cried. Ethan's heart raced. "It's not gone, she's manipulating everything. This is her maze." The stranger's voice drifted through the woods, near and far at the same time. "Welcome to the story you cannot leave. Every choice you make, every fear, I see it, and I will shape it." They pressed forward, trying to navigate the twisted trail. Every turn seemed familiar yet wrong. Every shadow flickered, almost alive. Then Ethan noticed something terrifying. Scattered along the path were items from their cabin. A coffee mug, a book, a photograph of their wedding, each placed carefully, deliberately. "She's watching us. She knows everything," Ethan whispered. Claire's voice trembled. "How do we get out?" Ethan had no answer. The truth was cold and undeniable. They were trapped in a story she had written, in a forest that obeyed her will, and there was no simple way to escape. The stranger's laughter echoed through the trees, soft, melodic, and terrifyingly close. "You'll learn," she whispered. "The story always wants its conclusion, and it never forgets." And in that instant, Ethan realized the forest didn't let go, and neither would she. Night fell fast, unnaturally early, as if the forest itself was swallowing the sun. Shadows stretched like fingers across the narrow path Ethan and Claire were forced to follow, twisting in ways that made the trail seem endless. Claire's hands were white from gripping Ethan's arm. "Ethan, I can't keep going. This isn't normal. This forest, it's alive." Ethan shook his head, trying to steady his racing heart. I know, but she's controlling it. She wants us to panic, to make mistakes. We have to stay calm." A soft whisper drifted through the trees, carried by the wind, or perhaps by something else entirely. "Ethan, Claire, the story waits for no one." Claire froze. "Did you hear that?" Ethan nodded grimly. "She's here, watching." They pressed on, the path narrowing further. Each step seemed to echo unnaturally, as if the forest itself was aware of their fear. Then they saw it, a circle of candles burning in the center of a small clearing, their flickering light painting the trees in a ghostly glow. In the middle stood the stranger, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders, eyes gleaming like obsidian. She held a small wooden box, the surface carved with intricate, almost ritualistic patterns. "You came," she said softly, almost pleased. "I knew you would, I always know." Ethan stepped forward, fists clenched. "What is that? What are you doing?" She smiled, a slow, chilling curve of her lips. "This is the heart of the story. Every choice, every fear, every promise, it belongs here. And you," she tilted her head to study them, "are the next chapters." Claire's voice trembled. "We're leaving now." The stranger shook her head gently. "Leaving is a luxury for those who never knew the story. You cannot leave. Not until the story is complete." Ethan's stomach sank. The forest had shifted again. The trail back had vanished completely. The trees formed a wall, dense and unyielding. Panic clawed at his chest. "What do you want from us?" Ethan demanded. The stranger stepped closer, the lantern light catching her face, pale and ethereal. "I want him," he promised, "and I will remind him. Every memory, every choice, every heartbeat, until he remembers who he belongs to." Claire's hands flew to Ethan's face. "He's my husband, you can't." A sudden gust of wind snuffed out the candles. Darkness swallowed the clearing. Ethan felt Claire clutch him tighter as whispers encircled them, soft, melodic and haunting. "The story always remembers, the story always remembers." When the light returned, the stranger was gone. Only the box remained, untouched, its carvings glowing faintly in the moonlight. Ethan bent down cautiously. The box was heavy, almost unnaturally so. Inside, a single Polaroid photograph, Ethan and Claire smiling, taken from behind without their knowledge. And beneath it, a note, written in a delicate, flowing hand. "Every choice you make, every path you take, I am there. You cannot escape what is already written." Claire gasped. "Ethan, she's everywhere. She's inside everything we do." Ethan's jaw tightened. He realized the horrifying truth. This wasn't just obsession. This was a plan, a story she had written long before they arrived. And they were trapped inside it with no exit, no allies, and no certainty that they could survive it. The forest whispered again, as if in response to their dread. And Ethan knew part of the story was fear and the other part was remembering. She wouldn't stop until both were complete. The forest was suffocating now, a dark labyrinth with no end. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound amplified in the silence. Ethan and Claire moved cautiously, hearts pounding with every step, yet the path beneath their feet twisted unnaturally, leading them in circles. Claire clutched Ethan's arm. We can't find the cabin, it's gone." Ethan swallowed hard, trying to keep his voice steady. "It's not gone, she's shaping it. She wants us to panic. We need to stay calm. Follow the path, just follow it." A faint glimmer appeared through the dense trees. Candlelight. And there she was, standing in the center of a new clearing, the stranger's pale face illuminated in the flickering glow. Her eyes gleamed like dark jewels, fixed on Ethan with a longing that was almost unbearable. "You came back," she said softly. "I knew you would. The story calls and you cannot ignore it." Claire's voice cracked. "Leave him alone, you can't do this." The stranger smiled, slow and chilling. "Do you understand, Claire? He promised me. Every heartbeat, every memory, I am the keeper. And now you're part of the story too. You cannot escape it." Ethan's stomach dropped. The stranger's obsession wasn't just dangerous, it was all-consuming. She didn't just watch, she dictated, she controlled. The ground beneath their feet shifted subtly, leaves swirling as if alive. The forest whispered, low and melodic. "Follow, remember, belong." Ethan felt the weight of the unseen presence pressing down. Every choice, every step was being watched, guided, manipulated. He realized that escaping wasn't just about running. It was about surviving her mind, her story, her obsession. Suddenly, the stranger raised the wooden box she had carried before. The carvings glowed faintly. She opened it slowly, revealing dozens of photographs, each depicting Ethan at different moments of his life, moments no one else could have known. His childhood, his first love, his promises, every secret captured. "She remembers everything," Claire whispered, horrified. "Yes," Ethan said, voice tight. "And she's using it, using us." The stranger stepped closer, her voice soft and persuasive. "You will play your part willingly, or the story will end differently, painfully. I am patient, but the story demands completion." Ethan knew then the horrifying truth. The forest, the stranger, the labyrinth, they were all extensions of her obsession. And every moment they resisted, she bent reality further, twisting the world until they were fully trapped. The wind shifted, shadows lengthened unnaturally. A low hum filled the air, vibrating in their chests, echoing with every heartbeat. Claire gripped Ethan's hand, tears streaming. "We have to fight this somehow. We can't let her take him or us." Ethan nodded, jaw tight, eyes scanning the forest. "We survive. We outsmart her, but we need to understand her story before it's too late." The stranger's laughter floated through the trees, soft, melodic and omnipresent. "The story always ends as it must, but the end is only as far as you take it." And with that, she vanished once more into the darkness, leaving Ethan and Claire alone in the cold, whispering forest, trapped, hunted, and on the brink of the story's climax. The forest was nearly pitch black, the moon hidden behind thick clouds. Ethan and Claire stumbled through the undergrowth, every snapping twig and rustle of leaves making them flinch. The petals, the footprints, the whispered threats, they all led here to the heart of her obsession. I can't do this anymore, Claire whispered, voice trembling. It's like the forest itself is alive and she's everywhere. Ethan held her close. We can't run forever. She's testing us, controlling the story. But if we face it, maybe we can end this. Then ahead, a faint light flickered like a candle in the darkness. As they approached, they saw the stranger standing in a clearing surrounded by tall, jagged trees. The air was thick, almost suffocating. The ground was scattered with personal items from their lives. Ethan's jacket, Claire's scarf, a wedding photo, a childhood drawing. You've come, the stranger said softly, voice melodic yet chilling. The story waits, and now you must choose. Ethan swallowed, heart pounding. What choice? The stranger stepped closer, holding the carved wooden box again. Inside this box lies the truth. The truth you forgot, the promises you made, and the memories you denied. He promised me, and now he must remember. Only then can this story end. Claire's eyes widened. Ethan, is this your past? Ethan took a trembling step forward, gaze fixed on the box. The air seemed to hum around them. Suddenly, the stranger's face softened, almost pleading. You can resist, she whispered, but the story doesn't forgive. Every memory you bury, every feeling you hide, it's here, with me. And if you refuse, the story will take what it wants anyway. Ethan's chest tightened. Memories long suppressed surged, fleeting moments of another life, promises made, confessions whispered in the dark. The stranger hadn't been lying. She knew, she remembered, and she would not let go. He turned to Claire, fear and determination in his eyes. I have to face this. If we run, she wins. If I remember, maybe we can end it. Claire nodded, tears streaming. I'm with you. Whatever happens, we face it together. Ethan opened the box. A flash of light engulfed him. Images, memories, feelings, all the forgotten promises, the hidden truths, the obsession, the longing flooded his mind. The forest seemed to spin, shadows dancing, whispering, urging, testing. The stranger watched, her expression a mixture of longing and pain. Do you remember? She whispered. Ethan's voice trembled. I remember everything. The forest shuddered, the shadows stilled, the whispering faded. The labyrinth began to collapse, petals swirling in a sudden gust, then vanishing. The stranger's form flickered, unstable. You remember, she whispered, voice breaking. And now the story ends. Ethan reached out, voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotion. The story ends when we choose, not when you decide. The stranger's eyes filled with tears, a mix of love, obsession, and heartbreak. For a fleeting moment, she looked human, vulnerable. Then slowly, she faded, dissolving into the mist and shadows of the forest. The forest exhaled. The oppressive weight lifted. Ethan and Claire held each other tightly. The labyrinth of fear, manipulation, and obsession was gone, but the echoes of the story lingered. A reminder that some promises never truly fade. Claire whispered, voice trembling, It's over, right? Ethan nodded, still shaken. For now, but some stories stay with you forever. They walked back toward where the cabin should have been. The forest was calm, serene. Morning light touched the treetops, washing away the terror of the night. But in the distance, a faint whisper floated on the wind, almost imperceptible. The story never forgets. The morning sun broke fully over the forest, warm and forgiving. Ethan and Claire stepped carefully along the familiar trail. The oppressive weight of the labyrinth finally lifted. The petals, the whispers, the shadows, they were gone. Ethan breathed deeply. We made it, the forest, it's calm now. Claire smiled weakly, her hand intertwined with his. I thought we'd never get out, but we survived, together. They paused near a clearing, looking back at the trees. A subtle breeze rustled the leaves, almost like a whisper, gentle this time. Ethan chuckled softly, a sound of relief. Some stories stay with you, even when they end. Claire nodded, resting her head against his shoulder. And some promises we can finally keep. As they walked toward the edge of the forest, sunlight kissed their faces. The cabin appeared in the distance, ordinary and welcoming once more. Their nightmare had ended, but its lessons lingered. Fear could be faced, memories could be reclaimed, and together, they could overcome anything. Ethan turned to Claire, a small smile breaking through the tension. "We'll never forget this story, but now we write the next chapter ourselves." Claire laughed softly, the sound light and free. "And no more strangers in the woods, please." Ethan grinned, agreed. They held hands as they stepped back onto the path toward the cabin. The forest behind them was quiet, patient, and still, a silent witness to the story that had unfolded within its shadows. And somewhere faintly, carried on the breeze, the story never forgets, but perhaps now it forgives. Sparkles, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Sparkles, hit the bell icon so you never miss the next thrilling story. Speech balloon comment below. Which part scared you the most?